Now, the clock is ticking on Anglo-American CEO Duncan Wanblad's radical restructuring plan. Wanblad plans to simplify the business by selling De Beers and unbundling its platinum arm. With demand remaining subdued in the diamond market and an overall commodities downturn, there has been uncertainty as to whether Anglo's divestiture-for-value plans would be possible. Editor for Financial Mail, Marc Hasenfuss, joins us now with a look into those plans. Marc, always a pleasure and a good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, I've just got some allergies, so I hope I'm not going to be sneezing through this.
I hope so too, Marc. Marc, let's get right into it here. Anglo's big restructure. How did we get here? Is this all as a result of this commodities down cycle that we're in? Or was it also just a matter of the company and the kind of ore bodies that it does hold?
Look, I think a restructuring was always on the cards. I think it would have happened at a much slower pace, taking into the commodity cycle and maybe better time and waiting for things to firm up certain prices. It'll be obviously certain segments will be better to be restructured at a certain time, obviously. But now with the BHP bid, it's really kind of lit a fire under Anglo. So they've got an 18-month window to do quite a radical restructuring. It's a very short time period, and there's some difficult things to deal with. But this is typically what happens when you have a hostile. Well, it wasn't a bid yet, but when you have a hostile advance, it can, and it has happened before in a number of cases, really invigorated the management team. The classic case would be Standard Bank back in the late 90s, where Nedbank had a very cheeky, opportunistic bid at them, and under Jacques Marais, Standard Bank just sorted themselves out very, very quickly and outperformed Nedbank and the other banks for that matter for a period. So hopefully that'll happen at Anglo as well, but very different when you've got commodity cycles going that can throw everything out.
Sometimes a carrot, sometimes a stick, and sometimes it's something completely different, Marc. Let's talk about then the selling of De Beers and then the unbundling of Amplats. These are very, very complex, I think, issues. If I think of De Beers and what's happening with Botswana with it, and also the diamond market as a whole, and then also just Amplats and a dual listing in London, it's a lot and a lot to execute, and a lot would have to also work out in terms of pricing here.
Yeah, look, I think they're both quite difficult. 18 months, where will the platinum price be? 6 months, where will the platinum price be? I don't know. So that's the unbundling, that's kind of written in stone. I think that has to happen. So that we know is going to happen. I can't imagine what might happen after the unbundling, with Anglo's gone and the shares being a lot more liquid. And if the platinum market's bad, this could be a difficult one. I think the far more difficult one, though, is De Beers. I mean, what do you do with this? With it, you certainly, I don't think they can list it separately or unbundle it. Selling it as a whole, I just can't fathom that. I just can't see buyers lining up to do that. If you split it up, there's been talk in our story that possibly they'll sell the marketing/brand arm. Again, does it really fall into the ambit of luxury goods companies? Will someone buy that? I'm not really sure. Mining one, that's another story as well. Maybe you could split it up. Possibly. There are complications. You've got other shareholders there, the Botswana government being one. It's not an easy thing to do. And then on top of it all, diamond prices aren't doing well, and you've got to think about synthetic diamonds hanging over you, throwing a curveball at you there as well. This is not easy. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's going to be fascinating to watch what they do there.
Also interesting, Marc, is the fact that after this restructure, Anglo's could be an even better target for a takeover.
Ironically, yes. Then again, if the market likes what they're doing and the share price performs, then no, they won't be, because it won't represent value to a buyer, because it'll reflect its true value, its true potential. The copper assets, there is a while to go, obviously, to bring some of those things to fruition. So there is a bit of a window now. I think we wrote in our story, and it's a very good point. You need to execute flawlessly, operationally. In the commodity market, that's difficult because anything can go against you. So, I mean, it's such a difficult one for Anglos. I mean, there's a lot that can go wrong. But it is what it is. They just have to sit through this, try and execute it execute operationally and execute in a restructuring. That's not easy. It's two fronts. So a hell of a difficult thing for them to do.
With that said, from a leadership perspective, Duncan Wanblad, I'm keen to get your thoughts on him and his leadership. And, is he the guy for this task that's ahead?
Well, he's got to be. I think he's committed to it. I think, he's got to deliver. He's got time to do it. These months ahead, he's got to just put things in place to show that there's traction in this exercise. That he's not going to delay it, or it's going to drag on. So he'll have to be the guy. I mean, they can't replace the guy. He's done nothing wrong, to be honest. But he needs to sort it out. So yes, he's the man to do it, definitely.
And then an interesting one also, Gary here. Gary's coming in later, Mark. Let's talk about also the angst that's been expressed about Anglo-American leaving South Africa. There's many pockets of, the economy, even in government, I think, expressing that Anglos needs to stay rooted here. But this might not be best for Anglos. The Anglos of the future may actually have to part ways with South Africa.
Oh, look, I think they've always had and recognised their South African heritage. I mean, I think some of the other mining companies, let's mention names here, who have roots here, go through the annual report, you do a search for South Africa, and you'll find nothing, or maybe one reference or two. Anglo still strong roots in South Africa. Yes, I see that, but they will still have operations here. Also, the Anglo-Plats, I think that the unbundling is great for the JSE. The liquidity in something like Anglo-Plats is going to be huge. I mean, if they unbundle Kumba as well, fantastic. So there's upsides and downsides, but I can understand the angst. It's an iconic listing. It's an old listing, goes back to the day, and to lose it would be huge. I mean, when it listed in London the first time, there was a huge outcry. So there's always something about Anglo that gets the emotions going, and that's going to happen here as well. But it can't stand in the way of unlocking the value that they said they're going to unlock, and improving the company, reshaping it into I suppose a streamlined, what are you going to call it, a copper play now. So yes.
Well, Mark, our viewers can read all of that in today's Financial Mail. Thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure having you with us. That was Marc Hasenfuss. He's editor for Financial Mail.